What up, friends? We are live. Sorry about that little imperfect thing. I'll move my little desk here. Don't worry about that shadow back there or that cool blue light. We are live on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/RobinBlack, and we're going to talk about Cowboy Cerrone and what's that other guy? Oh yeah, Conor McGregor. Sorry, let's get over here. Thank you. Thanks for humoring me. So, we did a part one. And the whole strategy of this piece was to take questions that people have and to take a look. So we do Q&As in media, in television, and YouTube, whatever. We do Q&As. People ask a question, we answer them. A lot of the time we lie, and the reason we lie is not because we're liars. The reason we lie is that we've been sort of led into talking about things a particular way by the people who came before us. So we imitate. We play a role. We don't really realize we're playing a role, or it just never occurred to us to think about it, but we play a role. And I had a lot of fun. Part one is up. Just go to the videos on my YouTube channel, which you're here now, and take a look. We had a lot of fun answering some questions and looking deeper, looking behind the questions. So that's what we're going to do here. Before I get too far into it, I just watched a trailer for a series that Donald Cerrone is doing. Now in a trailer, you get bits and pieces. Again, the word lie is a heavy one, but we don't always have truth and we don't always see reality. Video, when you see a trailer of a great movie, you're like, holy fuck, that's a great movie. What happens is somebody carefully selects moments. So in the trailer I just saw of Donald Cerrone, which I like very much, it's at morethanacowboy.com. I'm going to watch the whole series and get insight into it. Now, this is a part of what we were talking about in the last piece, and definitely part of what we'll talk about in this one as well. You should be skeptical of everything. Skeptical of what I'm telling you, skeptical of what you heard in a broadcast, skeptical of what you see in something, because most people who are good people, audio is not very good. Hey, thanks. Very, very good of you to tell me. If this still is not very good, tell me, and I will disappear for 10 seconds and try to fix this. 1 second. Bear with me. Actually, fuck it. How's the audio now? Audio okay now? Let me know. So people start to tell you things that serve agendas. That's normal. That doesn't make somebody evil. It doesn't make somebody bad. That's become quite a normal thing in our society. How's the audio? Anybody let me know? So the reason I bring that up is we're going to get initially first to a question from Donald Cerrone. The audio didn't change, Mr. Bink. Still not good. Would you guys like me to take this down and come right back with a new link? Stay with me, 10 seconds.
How's that? All right, sweet. I'm live. Thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for those 8 seconds of nonsense. The reason I bring this up is because this is something that's important to think about in a world of sports and news and politics and all these things. One of the first questions that we got here is from someone named at Border Walkers. Thank you very much. Everybody tell me the sound is better. At Border Walkers. I answered this on Periscope yesterday. I'm going to go into it better, deeper. People seem to like it then. Cerrone's coach said they only have to worry about a left hand, I added, and a first round. If Conor had to worry about Cowboy's weapon, which one? Question mark, head kick. Is Conor more vulnerable there? When we get these questions, in most of these settings, we start answering them the way that people who came before us answered them. Well, yeah, Conor's got the best left hand in the game, man. If he puts that thing on you, he's got one punch knockout power to touch of death. That's what we say. We've been trained to say it by those who came before us. Then we say, actually, the head kick. Conor, not a lot of people have thrown it. We start to just theorize these things, and it makes for good TV. Why do we do that? We do that because the purpose of television is not to tell you the truth, or television, YouTube, whatever. The purpose is to create engagement, debate, discussion. The important part of this question, Cerrone's coach said they only have to worry about a left hand and the first round. The important part of this question is this true that the coach believes that? That's the important part of the question. Because the truth is, we just assume it, and then we move on. Oh, well, what does Conor have to worry about? That is not true. First of all, does the coach believe that? He should not. The coach should never believe that. And our answers might be, yeah, but Connor's got the craziest now. Everybody touched gets knocked out. So and so coach, so and so analyst, Robin Black. You said whoever Chael said, and great smart people smarter than I said it's his left hand. It's the most powerful thing. It's a God-given talent. Whatever. Irrelevant. Here's why. No coach should believe that because it isn't necessarily true. Because it's been years since we've seen this guy fight in open space in the way that we used to see. He fought a brilliant defensive boxer, the greatest in the world, years back. He had a win in 2016, which is going on 4 years ago now. And then he fought the best wrestler in the game. And when he started to strike in space, he was tired by a brilliant strategic attack by a brilliant fighter named Khabib. Brilliant fucking fight, by the way. Brilliant fight. So you know what we know about Conor McGregor's fucking striking game? Fuck all. Why? Because they are martial artists. As we are all artists, we layer back a few steps. And what is skill development? Skill development, whether that be your left hand, a right hook, dancing, singing, playing piano, fucking talking on YouTube, making coffee cups, whatever your thing is, fixing the sound on your YouTube channel. Skill development is created through purposeful practice at any one thing. Where we deploy and apply effort, we will grow. So that means we have no fucking idea where Conor McGregor, John Kavanagh, all of the people he works with has been applying effort. So we have no idea how he has grown. Now we go a layer deeper. Again, so if you're just joining me, first of all, thank you for joining me. We're having a fucking great time here. But we are, to recap quickly, Cerrone's coach said they only have to worry about a left hand in the first round. If Conor only has to worry about one weapon and we move on, we don't move on. We stop and we say, is this true? Does Cerrone's coach believe it's true? Would there be any reason for him to say this without? These are the things we should be doing in our world, not the president or the premier of Canada or my favorite television person or Donald Cerrone's coach or whatever said this thing. Let's assume it's true and move on and react to it. We should assume that when people make statements, when people say things in a setting of television, sports, entertainment, whatever, they are not necessarily telling you the objective truth. They're telling you something that is of some value to them. So I am by no means, I started out by telling you should go watch more than a cowboy.com Cowboys thing. I'm going to come back to that. Cowboys documenting his whole training. I'm going to come back to that. Donald Cerrone's coach, I'm certainly not going to in any way imply he's not smart. Let's pretend he's a different person. Let's just pretend Steve Schaub, and I'm using Schaub because Brendan's my friend and everybody recognizes his name. Let's say he goes and says, all we got to worry about is a left hand in the first round. If he believes that's true, he's crazy, he's not modern, and he's falling behind the times. So we're going to assume Donald's coach didn't actually believe that's true. Why is that so? Because, as I said, Conor McGregor, as Donald is, as you are, as I am, we are in a constant state of change, upgrading and improving. That's who we are. That's what it is to be human. Never mind, that's what it is to be an elite athlete, an elite performer, an elite lawyer, an elite bus driver. The best of the best are getting better every day, and we don't know how they're getting better, and we don't know where they're getting better. And most importantly, if I know what you believe, I will use that against you in combat, in war, in fighting, in conflict, in debate, in law, in fucking all of these things. If it is a state of battle, not everything is or should be. A lot of times we should work together more than we do. But if we are in any type of battle, if I know what you believe, you're in a lot of fucking trouble. So if you really believe all I got is a left hand, and this applies to Donald as well. This isn't a Conor McGregor only scenario. This applies to John Jones and Ronda Rousey and your mom and the store owner down the street. This applies to everybody. If I know what you think I am, you have given me very valuable information. If you really believe that all I am, the only danger to me is a left hand in the first round, what if in the third round I've changed the way I approach things? And this applies to everything. And I will talk about Donald for a second. We'll circle back to this. So what do we know about Donald Cerrone? Well, he doesn't take body shots very well. and he can be shaken when he is emotionally, engaged in a fight or he's under duress. Okay, if you really think you know that about Donald Cerrone, and I'm Donald, and I'm Donald's coaches, and I know that you think you know that, I'm going to offer you openings to the body on purpose so that I get you doing something that I have controlled. What we're trying to do in a fight, it's not about who throws the best leg kick or how we work through space or who's got the better fucking, distance management. That's just shit we say on TV. Again, we're not telling you the truth there. We're going through a mechanism of playing a role that we think we're supposed to play. That's why we say that. None of it's true. When real fighters and real coaches and real fighting people don't have cameras on, they don't say, oh man, Calvin's got the better distance management, but if this guy can just manipulate, we just say that because we always said that. That's not real, right? So if we say, uh, if I'm Donald and I know that you really believe I'm susceptible to body shots, I'm gonna offer you times where you throw a body shot, and it'll be something specific. I'm gonna create an opening that you just can't ignore with your left kick, or you can't ignore with your left hook. I'll be training and preparing that when I see it, I fuck you up, and I made you do it. How did I make you do it? I made you do it by knowing what you believe, offering you that thing you can't resist, and then penalizing you for it. This is real fighting. This is what's really happening in combat. It isn't this guy's improved his ability to check kicks. It's not a card game. It's not fish. If it's a card game, it's the most complex layer of poker. You think you know what you think I have, and I know what you think you have, and so forth. That's fighting. So if you really believe Conor's only a left hand and only the first round, I can predict what you may do in that first round and how you will respond. So what would I do if I really believe you're only all you think I am is a left hand? I'm going to offer you left hands to create a reaction that you've prepared and fuck you up with that reaction. So you don't so what am I saying here? What I'm saying is Donald's coach sounds like a chess match. It's so far even beyond that because Joe has actually something you said a lot of times. Cheers to Joe Rogan, one of the best in the business, best dudes on earth. What did Joe always say? Oh, it's like high risk chess with dire physical consequences. Fucking, that's kind of where we're at, right? It's not chess, but it's layers and layers of bullshit. Sun Tzu said, all combat is rooted in deception. The game isn't who's got the better leg kick, who's the better wrestler, how's his takedown defense. This stressed me out a year or two when I realized we were all lying. And we weren't lying on purpose. We were lying because we were led to think we had to speak a particular way in a setting when it was lit like that and broadcast to somewhere. We all lied. That's not really what's happening. So we taught you all lies. So we're on Twitter saying, oh, this guy's got great takedown defense. And if he can, all that is bullshit. And the weapon doesn't matter. The tool doesn't matter. And now we're all obsessed with the tools. That's my fault as much as anybody else's. I started doing breakdowns in, I think, 2012. And I was like, the left hook will set up the low kick, which causes this. And it's bullshit. It's distance management. I talked about when Conor McGregor was fighting, I forget who. Go back and Robin Black, Conor McGregor breakdown, and I start talking about distance management. I didn't invent distance management, but it certainly wasn't discussed ever. And then slowly people like us started using it, and now we said it's a thing. It is deception. It's lies. And here's another inside thing. We'll get back to this in just a second, but this is where the interesting details come up. Head movement. It ain't about fucking moving my head. Besides, here's a secret for you. Head movement is a fucking bullshit thing. This is head movement. What we're doing is body movement, torso movement, movement from the feet through the hips, through the thighs, through the core, through the upper body. There is no head movement. There's evasive body movement. There's using my positioning there's all kinds of shit that's way harder to say. But by dumbing it down and coming to the most and again, I'm as responsible for this as anybody else over the years of doing my job. We found just the right things to say, that found just the right way to say it. But then what happens is it dumbs down our understanding. When we say that guy's got a crazy chin, We used to talk, when they were talking boxing, all the old greats in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, they would talk, this guy's resilient. He moves with the punch. As he hits, he rolls. He disperses the energy. It doesn't hurt as much later in the round. He catches things in a certain way. Oh, and he's really, really tough. All of these things would become the slang chin. But now we say that, has that guy got a good chin? What's happened? Is he got a good chin, or does he just not have power? And we dumbed it down and simplified it to a point that people think just chin is a category, and you got a 93 and I got power and I got a 91, and therefore it doesn't work. And so we told you all these lies now. And now, as we're looking at trying to understand this, we get this cognitive dissonance as we're trying to make sense of something highly complex and incredibly beautiful, and driven entirely by strategy and lies and manipulation and all of these. Some people call it trunk movement. Call it what you like. Our problem is that we have assigned simple words to complex ideas, and that's good because we're all talking real fast. It's fighting. These two people are fighting. This thing happens, and then this thing happens, and he stops this thing. We got to say words in that time. But commentary became flawed that we had to say every word, and now we had to simplify it, etc. Anyways, so what we're doing, we don't jump to this and go, oh my God, he said it's only left hand. So, but he's got more ways to win, because that'll become the new commentary. Well, since Connor's only got a left hand and he's only dangerous in the first round, Cowboy's got more ways to win. That's just such bullshit. And while, again, I don't want to only go one way. Cowboy is susceptible to body shots and can get shaken when he fights. When? Fucking 5 years ago? He's a complex human being on a fucking journey of ever improving greatness, driven by different things. He's got a family, he's got training, he's got all these things. You know what you are? I'm pointing at you. You're a complex human being. You're many things. One day you're the nicest person in the world. The next day you called your mom a bitch because she told you to clean your room when you were 16. You're complex. So are these guys. These guys are fucking complex. Donald Cerrone isn't susceptible to mind games. Twice he was, when he was affected by all these other things, influenced in his life that's ever changing as a human being. This oversimplification of this kind of thing, and who cares? It's only fighting. Who cares if we oversimplify it and we say Connor's got a left hand and Donald Cerrone is susceptible to mental games? The reason this matters is because we do this in everything. Now everything's black and white. Take 100 people anywhere and they're fighting with each other and they both believe opposite things. Simplified opposite things, where the truth is, it's all of these things, right? It is all of these things. I'm just telling you the truth. And here's the beauty of, so I've made 1,500 fight breakdowns in the last 3 years, thousands in my life. I've commentated 550 shows. That's 5,500 fights, probably way more because we did 20 and 25 fights of many back in the Fight Network days. So I've commentated 6,000 plus fights. I've seen this kind of stuff. And if all you do over and over again is go, hey, man, this guy's got knockout power in both hands. It's a stylistic matchup. If he can defend if you do this, you can do it. And then you become a robot, and then you get paid and you just do your job, and that's fine. But that's not what life is about. Life is about continually finding the plateau. It will stress you out and then break through it. And today, the way we break through it is by looking where we were wrong. And how do we know where we were wrong? We start to examine our own weaknesses and flaws. And then here we are. Now, I just described the act of doing a fucking YouTube video. Imagine this same line of thinking applied to fighting. If I'm Donald Cerrone and I know, or I believe that you believe that I'm susceptible to punches to the body. I'm confident that's so, because it may not be so, but I'm confident that's so. I'm now preparing nothing for months and years, because a lot of times these narratives last for years. Years later, people are like, oh, you got to kick Nate Diaz in the leg. Well, fuck you. You know this. Twitter knows this. But you don't think fucking Nate Diaz has thought, motherfuckers want to kick me in the leg? I'm going to fuck these guys up for this? The lifelong smart martial artists aren't sitting there. We know fucking Just Bleed 420 on Twitter knows that we should kick Nate Diaz in the leg, but Nate Diaz hasn't been preparing to fuck you up when you try to kick him in the leg. Doesn't mean he still doesn't get kicked in the leg. No, Conor was able to find that even though he'd been preparing that for many years. You know, he checked Pettis' kicks. Very good eye. Well, how do you do that? He's susceptible to leg kicks. Why did he check those, but Conor's some and not all? And he did he fucking hurt Conor on some of those. Um, and so Jorge Masvidal thought it would be better to kick Nate Diaz in the face and punch and kick Nate in the vegan belly. Well, yeah, maybe so, but I'll tell you, Jorge on some level was like, Jorge knows it. They all know this. There's different things happening. There's really what's going on in fighting, and I'm doing my best to tell you about this right now. Really, what's happening in the narratives of these fighters and coaches and people. And then there's the thing we're all talking about, which is lies and bullshit that we all created, not on purpose. We created it due to the settings and limitations of the genre in which we did it. There are people, and on the bigger the show, the more this is a challenge for them because it's harder to turn a giant ship than it is to turn a canoe. The bigger the show, the harder it is. They're sitting there still modeling the commentary and discussion and description of fighting after football or hockey or whatever. It ain't that. It's ever changing. And if all we do is just keep saying the same narratives over and over, we get trapped in an unknowing bullshit universe while fighting changes constantly. The same thing is happening in our understanding of what world events and news and politics. So we're sitting there fighting over this guy's susceptible to leg kicks. No, he isn't. Or we're like, this politician is terrible. No, he's awesome. And we're all wrong because we've been trapped in a narrowing of thinking due to narratives that stick us in lines of thought, right? So what's so great about when we find somebody like, and you don't have to listen to me, although a lot of you guys are staying in here, so it must be at least moderately interesting. Even just seeing a guy fucking get all worked up can be interesting. But why is this valuable? Because when you see something like this, when a guy who examines anything with his whole life looks at something, you see it in all things, right? Uh, you know, in the Book of Five Rings, I forget. I'm sorry, it's paraphrasing, but to know something broad, to know the way broadly is to see it in all things, right? So you start to understand the dynamic of what's happening in these fights. You then understand the dynamic and how we're discussing it, which lets you see the dynamic. And wait a second, we're arguing about politics, and both sides are being tricked into thinking they know what's going on, and the other one's crazy. And then we all get trapped in this cognitive dissonance, right? So Cerrone's coach, does he believe that Conor has to worry about, or they only have to worry about a left hand with Conor? He might, which case he's crazy. But I don't think he does. So then we would look at it. Why would people say something other than the truth? Well, first of all, when I go to ask you a question and I'm standing there, hey, listen, so and so, you got this guy. If you win that fight, what's going to be next? Whatever the question is I'm asking you, your job isn't to tell me the answer. You don't work for me, right? Donald Cerrone doesn't fucking work for you. He doesn't work for MMAawesome.net or whatever. Fuck. He doesn't work for these people. What he does is he signed a contract to fight a man in a cage in front of lots of people for a ton of money under duress, right? We'll talk about that in a second because when you watch some of his stuff, more than a cowboy.com, let's all go check it out after this. And I'm sure the links are up everywhere, right? But it's a following of him through it. What you see is Donald not starting to, he's a fucking veteran. He's known this for many years. He's just starting to layer up and level up in this. It's like, in the end, what is Donald Sir? And this matters. It's going to sound so simple. You'll be like, yeah. But it matters because it isn't this fucking simple to do. But what is going to happen when Donald Cerrone and Conor McGregor fight each other? Well, the reality, the truth of what's happening is they will get into a caged environment and do fighting against a professional athlete. Okay. And they will try to express their training for the purpose of winning against a body type and a skill set. And when Donald Cerrone does that, he fucks people up. When Donald Cerrone, and so why, yeah, Robin, you just described what a fight is. Big deal, right? The thing is, that's not the experience. And I say this often, and I do not mean to be critical of others. But if you have not fought professionally, ideally, and I only had 9 pro fights, so I have a limited understanding. This is how I know that if you haven't fought, you can't do this properly. Really, right? You can perpetuate the lies that get repeated as a guy says this about this guy's leg kicks, and if he can do the takedown, then but he stopped this, and maybe it's a flaw in his whatever. All of that, you're missing 95% of the information, because 95% of the information of what's happening in a fight is available exclusively through the experience. So even if you had 25 fights, you still are not in this one. So you have reference points to what happened, what it's like, what it may be like, right? So within that experience, yes, all you have to do is fight. What? And you hear this from people who don't fight. Why'd that guy screw this thing up? Oh, this guy made a giant error in the 4th round. They don't understand. If you fought, you would never judge an error. An error, the fact that there are dozens of errors, hundreds of errors every round, back and forth through both of us. It is a game of constant imperfections. So don't be surprised or frustrated when a fighter makes an error. It is an ongoing state of errors. Wishing you could do more than you are, dreaming that you would be an even better fighter on the night. Why are you not? Because if you have the experience, if you're in it, what you understand is there are many things at play, right? So, um, novel experiences, one. Novel experiences are difficult for the mind to process. So if all we had to do, and so if you take Conor McGregor and Donald Cerrone and you just throw them in a ring with no other people and say, you guys fight, we have a ref, that's one fight. It is now a different fight, way more than we can explain. And I'm not going to be able to do a good enough job to make it you feel this, because you can never feel it unless you're there. And I've only fought in front of 4,000 people and maybe 50,000 on TV. I haven't fought for millions of dollars in a bout. Donald will seek and has been very successful at this often in his this state, this chapter of his fighting, at making it. I'm not fighting uh, Conor McGregor for $3 to $5 million and the biggest fight ever and my future and all the attention. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just showing up to fight on January 18th against a skill set and a body type. When he does that, he fucks people up. When Connor does that, he fucks people up. If they both do that, we got a crazy fight. But these things are more important than who's better at checking leg kicks or how somebody's wrestling has improved. Those things are just shit we say because they paid us to sit on a desk and light it. And I'm not criticizing they or the process. I'm just trying to break through the plateau of that and try to find a way we can get to something more meaningful, because we're all stuck there and there's less and less people watch fighting and are engaged in day-to-day fights. Why is that happening? It's because we're full of shit and we're showing them an old, dated, ancient formula that is being repeated by people who learn to repeat the formula. It's just nonsense, right? But if and when the fact that when they are at their best and free to do so, yes or no is bigger than any other thing we will discuss at any time. How somebody did in their last few fights, how training camp was, who they changed for their coach, what weight class it's at. All of these things are things that we talked about in media, and we didn't talk about them because they were important. We think they're important because we talked about them. Think about that. None of these things are important. We are not talking about 170, who's got more ways to win, who changed coaches, how much does the time off. We're not talking about these things because they're important. We think they're important because we're talking about them. The most important aspect at play when these two men fight is which one is in the optimum state of performance. And if it's both, then ain't none of us going to be able to predict what happens. And if you're right 60% of the times, congratulations. If you bet, you're going to be a very successful person. But it's not because you have the ability to see the future. This is a complex, multi-layered, chaotic system at play. It cannot be predicted properly. Certainly not forever. Of course, I think I can get 6 to 7 fights correct out of 10. I've spent my whole life studying it. Maybe I can. But does that mean that you can predict anything? It means 40% wrong is a fuckload, right? For any purpose other than betting to make money. If you're betting to make money, congratulations. I'm super happy for you. Please don't bet because I told you something, because that freaks me out a little bit. So this is what's going down, right? if Donald Cerrone walks in and this is the first thing you see in his thing, it's more than a Cowboy is series. He's like, hey man, they say it's the biggest fight, they say it's whatever. I'm just going on January 18th, I'm fighting. If he stays to that and that stays real, he has every fucking chance to win easily. Not easily. There's no easy. If you land the first punch, it still wasn't easy. It was fucking hard. The whole build up, the stress, the pain, the fucking cortisol in your mind, like all of cortisol in your body, all of these things. It's fucking hard. But he can win and will look wonderful and will perform at his best and will be proud of it forever if he walks in there just, hey, I'm fighting on the 18th. Doesn't matter who it is or what it is. It doesn't have any other meaning than that. That's the most important thing. Conor, exactly the same thing. Conor has been able to, in most cases, other than Khabib, to be able to create more weight. Now, Donald's short clips that I've seen, he's like, there's no weight. You have to admit there is. That's another aspect. We must live in reality. We must live in reality. If I say I'd really like, when I'm asked to sit on a desk, I'd really like to not make predictions because they're stupid. Well, the reality is the producer might say you have to, and then I do it. Do I die on this hill, or do I find a way to do it in such a way that we perpetuate how TV is currently made about sports, and that's okay. And then I find my time to do this. Same thing with Donald Cerrone. If you say there's no way, there's none of this stuff that happened to Eddie Alvarez. And let me preface this. Eddie is one of my favorite martial artists of all time. So there's zero judgment here. Zero judgment. But when Eddie was saying, this is bullshit, he was shaking his head. He looked animated and he was denying it. And then he kept saying things like, Santa Claus isn't real. And all of a sudden on the night it is real. And why is that so heavy? Because it's dissonance, cognitive problems here. The reality and what you believe do not meet. So Donald, same thing. You don't just deny it. You say, this is real. This is an issue. This exists. This has hurt other people who tried to deny it. Do you think Cowboys coaches are making a mistake by thinking Conor only is one dimensional? That was the very first question. So hopefully you can go back and take a peek. The thing is, I don't know what they're thinking. They could be just full of shit. They're like, we know this guy's not one dimensional. We know he's ever changing. We know he could try to be trapping us with the left hand. But let's just say this because we have to say something because somebody shoved a mic in my face and I agreed to say things. They don't have to tell you the truth. Assume they're not. Assume, and this is my flaw with the old school, the old style website, you know, MMA Blue Pen dot awesome, is some guy asked a thing. 80% of those things are just a guy said, here's a quote, this guy said this, and then this guy said this. Almost everything they're saying isn't real. It's part of why we don't understand the world around us, is because news gives us quotes. Quotes are not real. We think they're real, and then we start to fade from reality. And then we start to add things. So let's get on to another question. But so that to me is interesting. And I find that interesting, and this is my YouTube channel, and I'm more interested in this. Do you know how easy it is to just do the thing that we all do? Do you know how easy that is? And you know, I could probably make a really good living, very good. Oh, Bahrain, nice to see you. I was in Bahrain. I got lots of comments. It's nice. I will answer some later. I've got a few other written ones. But do you know how fucking easy it is to just sit on a thing or wear an expensive suit and say it's a striker versus grappler stylistic matchup if he keeps the thing off the ground and tries to land elbows in the strike. But if this guy does this thing with his knockout power, both like, fuck, I've been doing that since 2012 and I could make a good living at it and go to a nice place and eat a good steak and whatever. But that's not what I'm after in life. I'm after constant growth. And to do that is to fail, try, fail, be stressed and pressured and ridiculed when you attempt new things, whatever. This is all part of it. And that's what these fighters do. They are not the robot. They are not the mechanical man. That's what Bruce Lee called back in the day. They are not the mechanical man. That is a combination of, the skills that we all said they had the last time we saw them fight. They're complex, ever-changing human beings, more affected by emotion, ideas, beliefs than they are by leg kicks or, elbows. Right? That's what it is. And we've done you a great disservice, and I'm committed to doing my part to change how this works, to change this thing. When I commentate, I'm not just saying, like I threw this and, oh my God, he did it that. You can do that, and I'm not criticizing it. It's nobody's fault. But that's not what I'm about. That's not what I'm after. That's not what I'm doing here. That's not why I painted my thing orange and do my own YouTube channel. It's not why I've made 1,500 breakdowns in the last couple of years. That's not why. I don't want to do that. I want to tell the truth. And the truth is an ever-changing target. Bruce Lee also said the highest technique is to have no technique. Yes. Your technique is a result of technique, my movement a result of your movement. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of different philosophies in there. How do you guys think bigger Conor will perform? Let's answer that. Thank you for your question. He's not bigger, is the answer. Um, very nice comments from people. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. He's not really much bigger. When Conor McGregor fought at 155, he'd walk in the cage. Let me just give you mine. The last time I fought at 135, I walked into the cage at 157 pounds, right? And I'm not a super athlete. But I studied the system, I studied the game, I learned how to cut weight, I had nutritionists, I did the work. Conor McGregor has next leveled that shit. When 155-pound Conor McGregor walked into the cage, he was 177 just on my math, plus the percentile, so 179. When 170 Conor is going to walk in the cage, he might be 182. So bigger Conor is 3 pounds bigger. That's breakfast. He's not bigger. Again, oh my God, a different weight class. What about a 165-pound class? We are talking about, we think those things are important because we're talking about them. We are not talking about them. No, he wasn't 179. Yes, he was. When he walked in, trust me, there is not a 155 pounder, old school 155 pounder in the world who doesn't walk into the cage close to 180. That's just what they do. You can deny it because of your expertise in the field, or you can say, hey, I follow some guy on YouTube because he has expertise. I should probably shut my face and just try to consume things by experts, but that's up to you. You do what you like. Conor McGregor's not bigger. Conor McGregor's not bigger. He'll be a little bigger. So what's the word? I just completely conflicted my own statement, but he's not bigger. He's not a weight class up, right? Does he appear slightly more muscular? Sure. Do these things affect here? Actually, here's another inside bit. New muscle is a detriment. But I don't mean new muscle like you didn't have it last time you fought it. Conor weighs high 160s. Whoever told you that was probably him. Again, why are you believing what these guys say? Somebody puts a microphone in somebody's face. If your opponent is bigger, you say your weight is lower. If your opponent is smaller, you manipulate the sentence. You don't tell the truth when somebody asks you your weigh-in weight. You lie for the purpose of creating the narrative so people say the things you want them to say. These guys are not telling you the truth. Now, how do I know that? Because I'm around hundreds of them and I know what they weigh, and I was one, and I trained with many, and I'm telling you from the inside. Do not believe a word that they said. Do not believe a word that they say about their weight. There are many different things fighters lie about, but the one that I can guarantee you is their weight. So now, some people have joined in and hadn't heard the earlier stuff, but the most important aspect of the earlier stuff is that what we believe to be true about somebody has already changed. And that's a big, difficult, and stressful thing for a lot of us who like to be able to throw around things that we believe. If we like to debate or fight or argue, we like to have shit in our hand. Conor gasses. Cerrone is susceptible to body shots. I'm sorry, those things are not necessarily true. Conor gasses at 170. Somehow he did 25 rounds with, 25 minutes with Nate Diaz. Quick question: where do you see more credence for Conor? Okay, that'll be about. We're going to talk about that. Weight classes and belts. We're going to get to that. We're having fun. Everyone having fun? I really am. I really fucking appreciate you guys. So, Conor, we'll leave it with this. Do not ever believe a weight that a fighter tells you is their walking around weight or the weight they walked into a cage at. Never, ever, ever believe any of them. Believe when Chael Sonnen will tell you what that's probably at. Believe him because he's been around these guys for fucking 40 years. He can tell you. Well, Chael's probably only 40, so 25 years. He can tell you. He knows. He's lied. Fucking Josh Thompson on the desk at Bellator. Believe him. He was a world champion. Michael Bisping. Believe him. Right? But not if he's playing the TV game. But when you ask Mike, hey, Mike, in real life, what do you think Conor's at? This dude, that guy's fucking big. He probably walks in the cage close to 180. Everybody who really fights, really coaches, really knows that. You don't have to believe me. And I don't know if 10 more people would tell you, but just trust me. Don't believe what they say. He's not going to be that much bigger. He'll look a little bigger. He'll be 3-4 pounds heavier. It'll be irrelevant. Also, last thought, Cowboy Cerrone is really a 155er in the old way where people cut too much weight, and he's a 170 in the new way where they don't. Conor McGregor is a 155er in the old way where they cut too much weight, and he's 170 in the new where they don't. So it's irrelevant. They're the same. All right. What else do we got? So two different questions that I really like here. One is at touch 21. It's Tyson Roch. Do you see Cowboy trying to change levels and fake takedowns, or try to throw McGregor off, or will McGregor walk him down? Now, when we're discussing strategy, so I'm going to address something. Somebody who weirdly wants to watch my thing is talking about with his 4-5 record, which he just looked up. He didn't even know I fought. I will mention to you that you have a 0-0 record, so that is important. But also, the most important aspect to learning about fighting is losing. You know what? John Jones is gonna not be a very great coach until he's lost a few times. He was very helpful to some of his fighters. He's very helpful because he's so talented and he's such a good dude, and he can inspire them. But losing is the most important part to understanding what's happening in fighting. Yeah, I know. So the guy says, I'm not a fighter, though. Exactly. And yet you're talking like you are, right? People are weird. People are fucking weird. We are surrounded by people who dedicate their life to things. There's a guy who dedicated his life to fixing cars. I don't go in there and argue with him and say, oh, this guy doesn't know shit about fixing cars. He's only been doing it for 20 years. Like, we're crazy. We've lost our minds, right? This is to the detriment of our society. This is to the detriment of all of us. Do I see Cowboy trying to change levels and fake takedowns? So this is another issue. Again, this is, to me, these are much more interesting and modern narratives than before that, which was, if this guy wins, do you think he'll get a title shot? That was over and over and over and over. When I was first, deep into fighting and fighting myself, and that was the only question. What's next for these two guys? Does the winner get a title shot? Where does this guy stand in the rankings? That was the narrative. And now the narrative, fortunately, and to me, I think it's beautifully, is what about the tactics and strategies that may be taken? And here's again some of the issue with this. Of course, Cowboy there's one of two things. If Cowboy, the long answer is, it is never as simple as these things. And again, we discuss them because they're easy topics to debate in the setting of a television. But are you going to imply other things, or are you going to just kickbox, right? Of course you're going to imply other things. And if you don't, it's because by not, there's a chance that you trick the other guy into thinking that you're never going to take him down. Right? So at play, if I'm faking takedowns, and again, this is just a two-pronged aspect of this. And again, this applies to, sorry, I'm moving my chair. There's a little rug here. This applies to everything in life, but I'm only giving you two prongs, but there's 6 or 8 or 10 relevant just to this idea. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about sorting, how you sort threats, but as best I can. It's difficult to explain, and I don't quite understand it to the level I would like to, and I don't know who does. But so let's say that we talk about feints. So back only 10 years ago, the game of faking things to try to get a reaction and try to read the reaction and use that information to find or create a hole, that wasn't as big a part of the game. And when it was, we didn't have those of us coaches, people who talk about fighting, whatever, who drew attention to it enough that it populated the whole game. So there might have been guys using feints and other guys didn't quite get it. But until the point at which most coaches started playing around with using feints and misdirection and stuff. It wasn't as big a part because early on, again, this is where history helps inform your knowledge and how these things shape. Knowing history is important because what's happening right now is a reflection of what's been forgotten from before, right? Or built upon. So early on, fighting was offensive. It really was. That's mostly what happened. Striking, striking, striking. As we both moved forward, thinking about offense, we were here, somebody grabbed. And then we would discuss what people would say, defend the takedown. I grabbed you, you would now attempt to defend the takedown. Not that long ago, 7, 8 years ago, we started seeing people move a lot. And of course, Conor was a big part of this. Holly Holm and Wonder Boy and people like that were a big part of this, where, wait a second, we don't just move towards each other, hitting each other. I'll draw you around and move away from you, and try to trick you. And in doing so, it changed the dynamic of the game. So all of a sudden, now we move. Now we try to get reactions. All of those things. These are more modern aspects of MMA, old aspects of boxing, old aspects of old combat sports, but newer aspects of the blending of all sports. So all that feinting was a new thing. Now we might get to the point, and we're already there with some of I just saw this with Pitbull against Juan Archuleta. I was there. It's Robin's always saying everything is randomly happening. It provides, yeah, I'm not saying anything is random. If you don't understand what I'm saying, you probably shouldn't be hanging out here. It's weird. But I'm discussing the idea that there's a push and a pull, feint and a reaction. What's the point? I want to get a reaction from you. I get a reaction, you do something. I use that to hit you. Now the game is slightly more nuanced. I try to get a reaction from you. Your reaction is one that you plan to give me the reaction that you think that I want, and then throw in some other thing, right? I give you a thing, a feint that you recognize I'm trying to get you to move your head here. You move your head there to get the thing that you want and then instead strike back. It's one more layer, right? Another layer is don't feint at all, until somebody starts to disregard the threat of that. And what really is happening is combinations of both. Sometimes I try to get reactions from you. Sometimes I do nothing. When I do nothing, something pops up. It's very fucking nuanced and intelligent and smart. And so this brings me, I mentioned sorting. This brings me to an incredibly important part of this. And this is, again, an aspect of it that we haven't found the way to discuss yet, but we all got to work on it. And I'm trying to work on it as best I can on my end. And that is when somebody says, this guy did this and he spotted it and he did this thing and he saw that and instead he started doing this. It isn't like that aspect of the brain. It isn't like I showed you a pen and you now know I have a pen and you're thinking, does he have that other pen? Look, there's a pen here. It's not like that. You just consciously thought that. Fighting is happening so fast. Again, we judge a lot of the time. You'll show a thing and somebody's like, why did that guy not stop punching that guy? He's clearly out. But if you look at it, and I show it in slow mo, and somebody will say, that guy was clearly out. Why didn't he stop punching? It's like, how can you not see that that was a millisecond? Like less than a second. And he cannot possibly be in a state of, okay, wait a second. What color is this cup? Where's the hand over here? Is that kick dangerous? Is this guy out? Like you can't do any of that. What happens is there's two types of thought process. There's two main ways the brain, somebody just called it chunking, and that's exactly right. But that's only one aspect of it. There's then chunking of chunks, right? And it's like, whoa. I'll tell you what chunking is in a second. But you can't start thinking about those things. Okay, maybe he's going to throw a kick. Okay, next time he throws a left hand, I'm going to counter. What happens is you train your nervous system for years. So when somebody fucks something up and gets kicked in the head, that isn't some error they made today. There's no reason to judge that man. There's no reason to look and say that guy screwed that thing up. And you see this a lot. You don't see it from fighters, unless they're trapped in a setting where they feel they have to be a broadcaster and don't know how to break out of that. Right? They get trapped in the broadcaster role and they'll say something like, I don't understand why this guy isn't passing his guard. And the answer is, yes, you do and I'm just going to mention one guy. He's a friend. I admire him greatly. I just saw him do this one time and it came to my mind. And if I get a chance to chat with him, I will mention it. So one of my favorite fighters of that era was Rich Franklin. And Rich Franklin, the reason he was so fucking good was he was game day always. Even, he lost to Anderson Silva. He got beat up in the clinch, whatever. Irrelevant. He was fucking game day, always. So what was happening with him? He was always in a state of optimum performance. So he didn't think, it just happened, right? So I saw Rich commentating something over one of the One Warrior series, which I really like. And Rich Franklin is commentating the guys in the guard. He goes, I just don't understand why he's not passing the guard. And it occurred to me, I'm like, fucking Rich doesn't understand why he's not passing the guard, because Rich is always in that fucking state of just allowing himself to do it. And this guy's trapped in a state of thinking because he's not at Rich's level. Rich's level is a level of free expression. Cowboy at his best, free expression. Conor McGregor against Eddie Alvarez, free expression, no thinking. There's no fucking thinking. There is only expressing of the programming of the body and the neurology that has been put in there for years, a controlling of the emotion, or an allowing the emotion to move in ways that benefit the body and the mind and the neurology and all of these things, and it just fucking happens. And when that commentator was doing it, a champion, a brilliant fighter, somebody I just always loved fighting, I realized he couldn't understand that. Couldn't understand that. What was happening? I don't know. And I heard frustration in his voice. And why was there frustration in his voice? Because he's like, that guy should do this. I don't get it. When I was there, I would do this, because he could access that state of pure fighting, and that guy wasn't. So without ever fighting, how on earth can you do that? And this will be something you'll see from people. And people can call themselves an analyst because that's just a word, even though they've never done martial arts. But think about it, right? Can you really analyze fucking brain surgery if you've never went to medical school? I mean, obviously you can't, right? You can analyze watching it and how you feel when you watch it, and whatever tidbits of things you think you've learned that feel real, even though you're missing the primary information. But you see that a lot when people aren't martial artists. They're like, well, this guy made an error. I don't know why he didn't respond to this thing. I don't know why he's not. And it's like, well, of course you don't know. You don't have the experience. You're not in it. You don't know what that feels like. Your brain is attempting to just allow itself to sort. What you've done is you've trained it to sort all the threats here, all the threats here. This is happening, time, how it moves, what happens. Your brain starts learning. When this happens, this thing comes. And it's been taught to learn, and it's learned how to teach itself. And it starts chunking certain threats and then chunking those things. And the goal when Donald is fighting Conor and vice versa is to win a fight over 25 minutes with another brilliant artist where you just can't even believe how fucking awesome it was, but somehow I was able to do more based on the work that I had done throughout my lifetime. The way to short circuit that is to set the brain to submit him, because his arm will be broken or his consciousness will be impaired or lost. If you do something, he has to stop. Oh, that was amazing. I did that. The other way is to set the brain to tilt, right? You set the brain to tilt by hitting it and affecting it neurologically. Therefore, it doesn't work. You can knock him out or hurt him in such a way it's easier. Or you can set the brain to tilt in other ways, like fatigue him so much that the brain thinking fatigues you as much as doing when you're a high level athlete. And that's not a secret. It's not something some analogy. You're burning sugars. The process of extensive and high level focus thinking is burning sugars. You can also overwhelm their focus. Focus is in itself almost like a beam. Focus is to be deployed. Focus, how can a baseball player hit a fastball? That's a training of focus, as much as neurology, as much as the ability to see, as much as training like the nervous system loop, training the physical loop, training the way the body all works together, all of that. So this is how you do it. You overwhelm the CPU of your opponent, or you damage it. If I kick you in the head, it's like taking a baseball bat to my computer. I fucking won, right? Or I can exhaust my computer by running so many programs, especially the old computers. And that's why the newer guys are even more difficult to deal with. They're running so many programs, but the younger guys are like newer computers. It's less stressful. It burns less energy. They've taught this. They've learned how to do this. So these are the things that's happening. So is Donald going to do these things? Sure, he is. He's going to do everything. And that again, so we got a Gaethje question. So let's try to wrap. We're going to do a part 3 of this. I'm going to ask for more questions. Hopefully, you guys will give Questions that are another layer of this, right? Because what I don't want to do is just take your questions and say, okay, we're asking the wrong question. Because I don't want to, one, I appreciate you like fucking crazy. And two, um, you know, we can take any of the old questions. What's next for this guy? Well, we can show you why that is a narrowing of your perspective. And so you're just saying the same things that we've always said. And that traps us in a place. Perspectives become narrowed as certain narratives dominate your thinking, right? Think about that. Certain narratives dominate your thinking and it narrows your entire perspective. That's why two different political parties believe themselves to be 100% correct and the other to be 100% wrong because they've narrowed their thinking. It's dominated their belief system, right? So this is why I don't want to just do that. I don't want to just, you give me the next typical question that MMA page dot super page gives, and I just say, hey, we've trapped ourselves here. But what am I saying? We've trapped ourselves, right? Here we are. It's 2020. It's fucking exciting. Martial arts is cool. There's all kinds of ways to share ideas. I still feel young enough that I've got 20 years of fucking growing and sharing in me. I'd like to use fights like this to find deeper levels and find deeper layers and shatter the paradigms and shatter the plateaus that we're stuck in. And a lot of us are sitting there watching the same thing over and over, and we feel weird about it. We know something's not right. Why are we just doing this? Aren't we supposed to all get smarter? Isn't this the act of studying something get smarter? And you realize, wait a second, a lot of us and the machine itself is not studying. It's just ritualistically doing a formula over and over again, right? So Gaethje, when Gaethje has been drawn into his renowned firefights whilst appearing compromised, how does he still excel in those instances? That's a great question. So that's a great question. It's a follow-up to how the brain works. It's because he's trained himself in it. He's trained himself in it. So I like to say space is where the chaos lies, right? But for Justin Gaethje, this is the applicable information. Chaos is simply patterns we don't yet understand, right? By living in what we all see as chaos, Justin Gaethje has learned to find peace in those patterns. Okay, chaos has Justin Gaethje has learned to find comfort in the chaos. He's learned to feel those patterns. He doesn't feel the stress. He's also, and this is years ago, and I had a bit of an online gentle back and forth with him. He he uh, he became at peace with the truth that if he does this 10 times, he's going to get laid out unconscious one or two of those. And to be at his freest in there, he must accept that. Justin Gaethje accepts something truthfully, and like Tony, great observation. Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson accept something truthfully. That is, if we live in chaos, we will become more comfortable in chaos. We will find peace in that chaos, but we are also still in danger, although we'll minimize the amount of danger we're in compared to our opponent. Joe Lozon had the same sort of fundamental fucking truth in his head. We will be in less danger than he is because we have found more comfort in this. But we are still in danger, and sometimes we will lose. That's at the root of what Justin Gaethje's doing, over and over and over. There's also a book called Anti-Fragile. I forget the name of the author. If anybody knows it, please put it here, and I'll say it out loud. Anti-Fragile states that the opposite of fragile isn't, rugged or hard to break. It is the opposite of it. It becomes strengthened in duress. That you become strengthened, you become more than just durable, or whatever word we want to use. Nassim Taleb, thank you so much, my friend. Nassim Taleb, Anti-Fragile. Read it. It's a fucking great book, and it'll be useful in life and many things that you do. Nassim Nicholas Taleb, thank you guys, appreciate you. Anti-Fragile, great book. That by handling fire, by handling challenge, by dealing with pain and stress, that you actually become more than just able to deal with pain and stress. You become armored to it. You become immune to some degree. So read that. Do you believe in life after love? I don't know. I don't think so. That was a good question. Somebody else asked a good question. If you could punch one person in the face from history, dead or alive, who would you punch? I mean, don't you have to go with Hitler? If anyone's got a better answer, please give it to me. Antifragile, a state where the state itself, in the condition where you increasingly accumulate the capacity of exerting your will in the bed. Okay, I don't know if that's what they said, but I like it. I think Connor is a bad matchup for Gaethje. He's still not tall and has no wrestling. Gaethje is a genius wrestler. Oh, you mean Connor? Connor's a fucking excellent wrestler. Connor had the best first round anyone's ever had against Khabib, just because we don't like him. And I do like him, but I mean, just because some of us don't like him doesn't mean he can't fucking grapple. Had the best first round anyone's had against Khabib. Still lost it soundly, but still, you can't ignore that. I'd punch Trump. Okay, I can't watch my. Somebody else said that 50% of people will be mad and 50% of people will be happy. We don't go there here today. You'd punch William Randolph first. Punch. Uh, do you think Connor still has moves like Jagger? I do. A lot of punches here. Okay, so let's. Oh yeah, we were gonna say this one, and again, please, so Twitter is at Robin Black MMA. Right? Have you analyzed Khabib versus T-Bow? Yeah, great. Fuck, man, I love you guys. You guys fucking watch fighting. Of course you do, right? Why are you on here with some old guy with bad hair in an orange room talking about the fucking philosophy of fighting if you guys don't know fighting? Of course you do. Khabib, T-Bow is a fucking cool fight. T-Bow, Khabib has leveled up 100 times since then, but T-Bow had fucking really good minutes in that fight. Really good minutes. People thought he won rounds. I think he might have won one. I can't remember. Go watch that fight on Fight Pass. It's fantastic. So there was So this is again follow up questions at Robin Black MMA, or please follow me on Instagram at Robin Black Martial Arts. Hundreds and hundreds of my breakdowns are up there, and so that would be great. Also LinkedIn and TikTok. Please follow me on TikTok at Robin Black Martial Arts. Trying to figure out how to create bite size ideas. I'm going to put up one today just after this. Why does fighting Cowboy at 170 give Conor a title shot versus Khabib if he wins? Justin Gaethje should fight the winner of Khabib versus Tony. Should Dana White step down from the UFC? His ego is getting in the way. I don't think Dana should. I think Dana, whatever you may not like about him, are a lot of those things are the same things that help drive this to where it is, and why we're even talking about this fight is because some of those same rugged, tough, you could call it ego, whatever. All of the often your strengths are your weaknesses. Your strengths are your weaknesses. I'm excitable. I'm passionate. I get all worked up. I always want to see things change. I always want to next level the stuff. That's a strength. Makes me happy. It's a weakness because people think I'm crazy. And then years later, if I'm too far ahead, other people do it or it becomes normal, but I've already moved past it, right? It's just your strengths are your weaknesses. Dana White, his strengths are his weaknesses. And we all are. So if you don't like something about him, it's part of the same thing that made them successful. I think Khabib has the perfect recipe to win rounds. If you look at the MMA rules, he just has the perfect approach to winning fights. He's also fucking crushes people. Dana makes the best fights all the time. Yair or Zabit? Zabit. And again, hey, shit changes. Yair could have improved dramatically since whenever I saw him last, but Zabit's really fucking special. And he will be getting better too. So it's very difficult to really say, but he feels better. And shit happens, right? Get best fighter in the world. George St. Pierre got beat by Matt Serra, and that's not a knock against Matt Serra. Matt's just fun. I love Matt Serra. Admire him greatly. It's brilliant, especially as a grappler. He's a brilliant grappler. I'm going to miss some of these because I'm going to that. So, Cowboy at 170, how does it give Conor a title shot with Khabib if he wins? So, these are old. This is not a detriment to the question at Mohawk Jimmy. I appreciate you, Mohawk Jimmy. But these are old irrelevant questions. And I mean them irrelevant, not in that you shouldn't ask them, or not in that I judge you for asking them. I do not at all. I mean that we know the answer to it. None of our opinions matter whatsoever. And there is no real rankings, and fights get made if they make money, and we all know this. And so the reason I say that irrelevant is not because I don't think we should ask these questions. I just think this brings up something that's very important to me, and that is opinion is fine, but complaining, like, or worrying about something over which we have no real influence whatsoever is a time waster. Now, you're not complaining here. If you did, you're like, this is bullshit. Connor shouldn't have this title shot. Gaethje should have it. That's complaining. Now, why would that be bad? Complaining is inaction disguised as action. So when you complain, you trick yourself into thinking you're doing something, but actually you're harming yourself. Now, if your complaint could somehow affect change, that by all means complain. If you complain to your boss, it causes a change in something. If you and hundreds of thousands of others, protest something, you can create change. But sitting somewhere and saying this is bullshit, Gaethje should get it, that doesn't. And so you believe you're doing something. It's inaction disguised as action. It feels like you did something and you didn't. You frustrated yourself. Brings me to another thing. I've been talking about this a lot every few times, but there's an idea called negative capability. It is one of the most powerful things you can train. Practice it like yoga or meditation. Negative capability is the concept that we humans are very fragile. Our egos need to feel like we are certain. We need certainty. We need stability. We live in an ever-changing, complex world, and we feel a lot better when we're stable. We sign a 2-year contract, we feel good, even though that company could go out of business. We like stability. We like comfort. We do not like uncertainty. Negative capability is the idea that the longer you can delay forming an opinion on something or jumping to drawing a conclusion, the smarter that you have the potential to get. So I see a thing happen. This guy gets hit. His hands are down. I say, always keep your hands up. I've limited my understanding, right? That's not true. Always keep your hands up is not true. Because why do I keep my hands up? To cover my face. What will happen if I drop my left hand? You will punch me. Always keep your hands up. Not true. If I want you to punch me so that I may use it, I'll drop my left hand. You'll throw a punch. I'll slip it and I'll hit you back. Therefore, always drop your hands is not true. Or never drop your hands is not true. Right? That's not true. It's wrong. But if I jump to that conclusion, I've stopped my ability to learn. If I form an opinion, this guy sucks, I've stopped my ability to learn. As soon as I say this guy sucks, I then look for information to support that opinion I've formed. Nobody's saying you don't have the right to an opinion, you do, but they want you to form opinions. The world is trying to get you to form opinions, and it stops you from thinking. It stops you from learning. What do you think? Donald Trump, awesome or terrible? It's many things. He's a human being. Don't get me started. Right? Don't get me started on it. It was a bad choice to let me choose somebody else. Oprah, awesome or terrible? She's fucking many things. She's complicated. Also, what we see on TV is not actually her. There's a million things at play. So as soon as we form an opinion, we're like, see, she said this thing. She's terrible. See, she also did that. Oh, that her tweet from 5 years ago supports that. Don't stop. Don't form an opinion. Don't jump to a conclusion for as long as humanly possible. That's called, I just said what it was called, but I've already forgotten. Negative capability. The longer you can stay in that state of uncertainty, the more you're going to learn. And Einstein stayed in a state of negative capability for 10 fucking years to come up with the theory of relativity. He lived with that uncertain state, that discomfort of not knowing. Because if he just said, well, maybe it's light, maybe it's time, maybe it's this, he would just go down. And sometimes you have to draw a conclusion. Sometimes you have to form an opinion. Sometimes you will, because it's part of the exploratory process. Don't say never. It's impossible to never. But the longer you can wait, then you'll form an opinion, then you'll research it, and then you'll find it's wrong. Wait a second, it isn't about who checks leg kicks better. That's not even a real thing. That's just a weapon. A weapon's only a tiny part of the deployment of ideas. Wait a second, it's not about leg kicks. Oh, I was wrong. I made those breakdowns years ago that said the most important aspect is his left hand. Shit, that's not really right. If I believe that, he's going to fuck me up. You learn as you go, and you keep learning and learning and learning. How is this different from the scientific method then? It's a really good question. It is part of the scientific method. It is, It is part of the scientific method. Allowing truth to come out, or as close to truth as possible, or whatever something is revealed, you explore it, but you don't become attached to it. It's not, this guy's got the craziest left hand in the business, I better defend that. I called it the Celtic Cross. My friends at EA Sports called it the Celtic Cross in the video game. I think contribute to me. Um, and I now have to say it's the best weapon in the game. No, I don't. Now it's probably a fake weapon. Now it's a weapon used to draw a response to exploit your belief that it's my all you have to worry about. And if this coach really believes all he has to worry about is a left hand in a first round, me, I know that now. I know that. I know what you believe. If I know what you believe, that's fucking bad for you, right? So we're in a state of constant learning. We're in a state of constant exploration. We're in a state of, you know, and a lot of people popping up. It's 50-50 if it goes 5 rounds. That's an opinion. And this is not meant to be a detriment to anybody. I value you guys. It's a fucking thrill that hundreds of you come on here at a time and thousands of you come on over a day to explore my ideas, and some of you to hate them and some of you to like them and some of you to post them on other places, say, doesn't this guy suck? And thousands of other people will watch or say, isn't this guy got an idea that I'm interested in, or whatever. Appreciate you like crazy. But I want to offer you this. Why is it important to not form an opinion right away and to delay forming an opinion for as long as possible? Why is that important? Because we don't know anything about anything. None of us. We don't know shit about shit. We've been taught, we've been tricked, really. Nobody did it on purpose. Nobody's trying to fuck us. This is the fucking Coca-Cola and McDonald's didn't get in cahoots to do this to us. CNN and fucking Fox News didn't get into cahoots to do this to us. But what happened in our modern society is we watched people argue about shit and never fucking give up no matter what. Form an opinion, defend it at all costs, out to the point that they're not even in reality anymore. They're making up shit, changing how people see science, global warming, all these things, fucking manipulate, two sides manipulating the truth because they just won't allow it. And we learn it. We're taught it from the time we're very young. And then we get trapped in it, right? We get stuck. We get stuck in where it narrows our thinking and it narrows our ability to see things. I want to talk about fighting all day, and I get to do that for a living. It's really important to me now, though, in the process of studying fighting, the things I've learned about how our thinking becomes limited. And our thinking becomes limited when we see the same 5 things over and over. If this guy wins, will he get a title shot? Is he the GOAT now? Which guy has better striking? What's next for this guy? And we get trapped, and then we have that narrative. And then we have the same thing on CNN, and that's really important. That's going to affect how we fucking live our lives. Maybe it'll stress us out, and then we eat Doritos because fucking we're stressed, and that's on commercials. And this is how fucking we start living our lives. It's not how we're supposed to be living our lives. We're supposed to be fucking relaxed and allowing ourselves to think new things. We don't know anything about politics. If you watch CNN or MSNBC or Fox, you don't know nothing about politics. You know what someone told you over and over again with passion and excitement, and you didn't do any studying or researching except for the shit that popped up in your Google that supported it. And you think the other guys are crazy. Both people, they all think each other's crazy. You think that, if this, it's all about takedown defense. It's not takedown. Real fighters, and I'm not blaming fucking great wrestlers, Cormier or fucking Dominic Cruz. I admire these guys. They're great people, brilliant people. But when they say, this guy, great takedown defense, they know that when they wrestle, they don't set to takedown defense mode. When you wrestle, you are looking for small improvements that create openings that allow you access to some. You don't defend the takedown. You might counter it. You might punch him. You might get to his back. You might improve it. But they say it because it's always been said. So now experts are being trapped in these things, repeating themselves, right? Repeating themselves and saying what we think. So we all get stuck in this thing. We don't know anything. If we watched every UFC ever, we think to ourselves, wow, we know a lot about fighting. No, we don't. We just know a tiny fragment. Joe Rogan knows a lot about martial arts. He knows fucking, the size of Canada. But he gave you the size of one lake over that those years because of what's happened is it moves so fast. The narrative has to happen. He's got a guy in his ear saying, talk about this thing. Don't talk about that guy's losses, limiting what he's allowed to say. And he doesn't follow a lot of what, ain't nobody limiting him much anymore, which is why you can, that why we listen to him and why you watch his podcast, because he's allowed to, he doesn't give a fuck. So he'll just say whatever. But people like him in whatever sport we've seen that aren't as flexible and aren't as pioneering of thought as him, they get stuck in there, things they can and can't say. Then they say a thing over and over and over again for a long period of time, and then you hear it, and then you think, yeah, when you're fighting a southpaw, you always got to keep your front foot on the outside. Total bullshit, by the way. Total bullshit. At a high level, Alistair Overeem doesn't fucking believe that. And if you believe it and you're fighting Alistair Overeem, you're unconscious because he knows what you believe and he fucking took advantage of it. That's not true. That's not true. You don't have to keep your foot on the outside. But if you think you know that, you never fought, you never trained, you don't know. You don't know anything about fucking your engine either just because you have 75 cars and you take them to the mechanic a lot. You just know what he told you. So we don't know a lot, right? We don't know a lot. We sure as fuck don't know a lot about politics and news and sports and fighting. We don't know a lot. I've studied fighting my entire life. I started when I was a kid. And the most important thing that I know now is how little I know. Why? Because 10 years ago, I thought I knew a lot of stuff. And now I think everything I believe then is really stupid. I value it because it helped me get to this belief. But I know in 10 years, I'll think this is a very primitive way of thinking about things. That's what it is to continue to grow. And that's why I know that's what Cowboy Cerrone does. And that's what Conor McGregor does. And that's how we know he doesn't just have a left hand and he doesn't just have a first round to hurt you. We also know that people don't tell the truth. And that's why Donald Cerrone's coach said he believes that. Or he does believe that. And he's actually, that's going to limit him. They're going to use that against him. But he can believe that. And Donald's like, I really value this guy's input in all these ways, but I'm not agreeing with him on this because he's his own human too. These are all complex people doing complex things. We see 12 minutes of a guy fighting and we think we know how he fights. There's 8,000 hours of him sparring in the last few years that we haven't seen, and him moving in different ways. And that those 2 times he fought, he had a broken rib or whatever, right? We don't know shit. We don't know shit. Our job is to explore. Our job is to keep learning. Our job is to form opinions as limited as possible. When we notice ourselves doing it, I'm like, yeah, Conor McGregor does this. Wait a second, that's an opinion. How did I come up with that opinion? Well, I heard somebody else say it. But when I fought, and my coach, and when I learned, and when I watched these guys, and when I'm at these shows cage side, and when I'm commentating, wait a second, that doesn't all add up. Wait, that opinion's wrong. And then, but it opens up a new idea. This is fucking thinking. Right? I'm going to give a couple quick book reviews, and I'm out. Or a couple quick book recommendations, and I'm out. The 4 Agreements. Read the 4 Agreements. It starts to let you think about how and why you speak the way you speak and what that means to you and the people around you. Really great book. Really, really great book. Another book, I forget the author's name, but it's called The One Thing. How to think in terms of, I'm not trying to accomplish 27 things. I'm trying to do one thing, and then another, and then another, and then another. And lastly, let's recommend Anti-Fragile, which we talked about earlier in the thing. Any last questions? We're almost 90 minutes. We're 80 minutes in. It's been such a pleasure. Can't thank you guys enough. And thanks for everybody who's been sharing these. And if you've been in here the whole time and you want a Bink shirt, it's at shoprobinblack.com. I also have Enjoy the Hostilities and Flim Flam and a couple others. Last questions. When are you back in JRE? There's so cheers to Joe Rogan. He has invited me back and said next time you're in LA, but I don't know when that is. But I might be finding out soon that that I am doing a deal that will include me doing a show once a month in. Oh, I got a question from Donald Cerrone. 79 minutes in. So he contacted me and said he really liked my first one, which was cool. I'm glad because I have a tendency to think, down certain roads, but I try to really explore things in truth. So Donald Cerrone said some kind things about my work. Hey, I said, you got a question? He's like, yeah. Are you on Team Cowboy or what, motherfucker? Let's go. Um, yeah. Sorry, man. I'm not on Team anything. I'm on Team Truth. I'm on Team Best Fight Possible. I'm on Team like let's let this thing unfold. I'm on Team two guys are at their very best and have the greatest fight they've ever had. That's truthfully what I'm on 99 times out of 100. Sometimes when Cub Swanson fights, I'm like, okay, I'm on Team Cub Swanson tonight, and you know, but yeah, it was nice of Donald to send me a message, and but more than a cowboy.com. Let's fucking watch that, and then send me some messages. If you watch that, leave them in the notes here too. What you thought of it. The bits and pieces that I've seen, like I said, that guy knows. Like he's a fucking veteran, right? Like, did anyone fight more than him in the UFC? No. Has anyone won more than him? I can't remember the stupid numbers. Maybe, maybe not. Um, the whole point for him is, yeah, I fight sometimes, and I'm fighting on Saturday. If he does that, he can beat this guy up. Just get in there and flow and be the best guy Conor's ever fought on that night. Can easily be that. And Conor, on the other hand, Conor, is he at his best? Is he at his best? And is his best better than his best? Because if he's at Eddie Alvarez's best, he can win this fight. If he's gone far beyond that, Donald could be at his best, and then after go, holy fuck, that was something special to fight a guy like that. That's what I want from both these guys. 80 minutes. That was a pleasure. I miss these long forms, man. I really do. I'm so glad to have put this little studio together. I got a little TV I'm going to pull in here and break down some stuff. But thank you so much. At Robin Black MMA on Twitter. I only need like 200 more followers to be at 50,000. And I think I need about 400 more to be at 100,000 on at Robin Black Martial Arts. Not that numbers like that matter, but they're neat. You get to put up a little thing and say thank you, everybody, because I fucking appreciate people. Somebody said that went quick, man. I was on LSD. You were on LSD? Whoa. Please leave me a message and tell me what that was like. But yeah, I appreciate you guys, man. This has been a real fun couple of years, just slowly trying to learn new things. Doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of breakdowns help because I see it all different. But all it does is let me go back into the experience of what I did when I fought. And I didn't perform very well. And I understand that now. And that's really, really, really powerful. You also understand you don't judge yourself. You don't judge who you were. You don't judge, and you don't have too much expectations for who you're going to be. You just keep getting better every single day. That's not hard. It's really not hard. You just make it a priority. Make it a big priority. Like, I'm going to learn something every day. One thing. Fuck. Get what is it? What's this app? Whatever this book app is. Whatever this book, that's the Book of Five Rings. But whatever this book app is, get it and listen like 15 minutes a day. Find things that are interesting to you and listen 15 minutes a day. Do you think if you were to go back with your knowledge, you would be the world champion? No, no. I started like training at a high level very, very late, and my knowledge is really pretty good now, but it's not the best. Uh, it's still not anywhere close to the best, and physically, I didn't have the abilities. I move really nice now, though. Talk to my coaches. It's a lot better than I did when I fought. But hey, thanks, guys. Man, it's fucking. We got hundreds of people here. Let's do a couple questions. Like, I almost don't want to go because I've had such a good time. Somebody said Kindle. No, it's like an app where you get books on it. Listen to books. OnePlus is better value than your iPhone. Nah, man, my iPhone, I fucking make my breakdowns on this sometimes. Khabib says he doesn't understand Tony's mind. Sorry, I lost that. Let's see if I can get it back. Tony's mind. I think this is why Tony wins all his fights. It's good if someone doesn't understand your mind. That's a compliment, man. Robin Black 2020 versus Robin Black 2005. I was way more handsome back then, but I'm a lot smarter and happier now. What are the chances of Tony beating Khabib? Very good chance, but Khabib's the best in the world. The very best, but the best lose. Imagine if someone as nice as Robin choked you out. Oh, thank you. I get a lot of compliments on being nice, and Canadians take a lot of pride in that. Whiskey or beer. I try not to drink too much these days, but I'll have one of each. Thank you. Greetings from Warsaw, Poland. Thanks for all the kind comments, guys. I'm literally trying to get off here because I feel like I'm on too long, and we got hundreds of people on here with us. Thank you to everybody who shares my stuff, too. Let's take a minute. Let me just fucking be thankful and grateful. Lots of people follow. So I lost my Instagram 5 months ago, a little over 5 months ago, a guy at the UFC took it down. Uh, he's got a vendetta against me. That's a whole other story. But and then Joe Rogan posted, "Hey, follow my friend Robin Black. He's a great martial artist and a great human being." That part was way nicer. Great human being, like for Joe to say that, because Joe's a great human being. And then like 40,000 people followed me that day, and now it's almost 100 again. And I just make my breakdowns and post them on there every day. I try to do work every day, every single day. I try to do work, try to learn something about martial arts, something about language, something about communication, something about protest, something about process, something about the process of continued learning, something about self-improvement. I try to do that every day. If Khabib can't close the distance, Tony will smoke him. That's true. I mean, not guaranteed. Uh, Khabib dropped Conor. Like it's not like he can't hit you hard. He could, but Tony's really fucking special out in the. Again, there's enough. You imagine Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje. Fuck titles. Fuck titles. Like that's the fight I want to see. Uh, but you never know. Maybe Tony's the champ, and then if he isn't, and Habib wins, then Tony and Justin Gaethje. Fuck, is that good? Uh, you got the highest ratio of likes to viewers. Oh, that's so cool. You should probably do this regularly, Robin. MMA philosophy. I promise I will. I'm going to do 2 to 3 of these a week, just like this. I thought I had to set up my studio more and do kind of a higher end thing and whatever. And it seems I don't. People seem to really like it. I just got my thing. Maybe I'll put something up here. But yeah, just we're out here being honest. We're out here fucking trying to dispel the myths that we've all created and try to be honest. I think of Habib's opponents were wary of his takedowns, but Tony will throw caution to the wind. Yeah. Tony's happy to fight on the ground. That's the interesting part for me. Tony's happy to try to slice you up with elbows from guard. Balrog would easily beat Anthony Joshua. I don't know the details in there. Balrog, I like it. Would you take on Dan Hardy at catchweight? No, he's a higher level martial artist than I am, and he's my friend. Um, I mean, I'm not like I won't take on a higher level martial artist than me, but he's significant enough that it wouldn't be worth it for him to just go and kick me in the head a couple of times. But I spar with him, and I'd certainly like to learn from him. It's a gift, man. Let me tell you, one of the great things about doing what I do and the way that I do it, I'm pretty much welcome most places, and I learn from everybody. Uh, Sorry, Robin, just sodding about all the best things. Robin, what fighter of today's do you think best embodies the evolution of martial arts? Oh man, that's very complicated. The embodies a martial artist is Stephen Thompson, but embodies the evolution is really tough. Young guys, really young guys. Sean O'Malley's and who did we say? Zabits and guys like that. They're already that. You should do a breakdown with Dan Hardy. Yeah, I've done a couple. Like if you Google our names together, I did a couple things. Old though, we're both a lot better now. There's a reason why GSP does not mention he spars with Robin. Is that somebody actually who knows that I sparred with GSP when he was getting ready for Michael Bisping? One more book recommendation would be great. Okay. Simplexity. It's a really cool book. It's called Simplexity. And it's about how simple things become complex and complex things become simple. And it really connects to fighting. Stumbled across this and glad I did. Cowboy or Conor? Surely Cowboy knows to bring Conor into the deeper rounds. Yeah, but you don't get to. That's an interesting thing that I really like there. So he's like, surely Cowboy knows to bring Conor to the deeper rounds. Or somebody will be like, surely somebody knows to keep Khabib at distance. Or sometimes you don't get to do what you want, right? Because there's two of us. There is a dynamic between our brains. It's like playing poker, and I just get to do whatever I want, right? Or it's like we are connected, so I can't just do that. Like to go later sometimes is a very difficult thing. If I want this fight to go later, there's ways I can attempt to strategize that, put you against the fence, or get heavy on you, or whatever, or run or whatever. But those things are all once I see that's your plan. If it's a very simple plan, I have ways to beat all of those plans, right? That's fighting. You want to do a thing, and I want to do a different thing. So There's always, and it's a great question, because it's a deeper question than that, and that people will be like, you know, why didn't that guy just take him down? It's like, because that guy didn't want him to, and it's like, well, why didn't he even try to take him down? Trying to take a guy down means getting close enough to grab him. Getting close enough to grab him and then pull him in, and then getting a better hold on him. And then from that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If I just don't get close enough that you can grab me without getting punched in the face, you've got to punch and kick with me. And then if you can never breach that problem, you never get to take me down. You never get to even try. And then you hear frustrated fans going, why the fuck didn't that guy try to take him down? It's like, he was trying. He's just not in the way that you could see. Which fighter that you haven't interviewed that you'd like to interview the most? Oh, I've actually never done a long. Oh no, that's not true. I've done sit downs with John Jones at different times, but I'd like a long sit down, drinking coffee with John Jones, podcast style. I'd like that. But there's a lot. Interesting, but isn't it easier for Cowboy, the bigger guy, to keep the distance and chop the legs? No, it's when you try to chop my leg, you stand on one foot. And in that second, I do things. Sometimes I move closer. Sometimes I punch you. Like, chop the leg is not a thing. Chop the leg of a guy who's not fighting you is a thing, but chop the leg of a guy who's trying to fight you is not a thing. Holy! I just realized I'm training at 2:30, and it's 2 now. I love you guys, really do. I'm not overstating that. This was really fucking thrill for me today. Uh, Jorge Masvidal is an interesting interview. If you haven't watched it, please go back now. In the search engine of my YouTube channel here. I sat down for brunch for 75 minutes with Jorge Masvidal, and we ate Mexican food and chatted. It's really great. I love that guy. I admire him greatly. I gotta go. Going to train, and man, now I'm super motivated to train. So that's wicked. Thank you guys so much. Please share this, and I'll be back. Part 3. Today is Saturday. Part 3 may not be till Tuesday or Wednesday. My wife's uncle passed away, and on Monday. And thank you. I know people will say nice things, and I appreciate it. I'm thanking you in advance because I know you will. Uh, and so Monday, I'm going to a funeral, and then I'm shooting a thing with TSN on Conor McGregor. It'll be Canada only, but sometimes ESPN shares it too, so you might see it. So it could be Wednesday. But please send me questions. You can leave them in the bottom of this. If you're still watching at 90 minutes in, then you're somebody I want a real question from. So leave it in the comments. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for everything. Big t-shirts, hostilities t-shirts at shoprobinblack.com. Please follow me at Robin Black MMA on Twitter, at Robin Black Martial Arts on Instagram, at Robin Black Martial Arts on TikTok. My name on LinkedIn, and I got a Facebook page too. I will friend you if you send me a message. And that's it. Appreciate you guys. This was a thrill. Blackout.